Why TBC? What's the deal? Now we know Wladimir Klitschko and Tyson Fury have a rematch coming up. We're just waiting for the date and the venue. But a lot of Wladimir Klitschko fans. First, let me say this. I picked Wladimir Klitschko very comfortably in that first fight to beat Tyson Fury. I just thought, once they got in the ring, thought Wladimir just be the better fighter. Thought he had the better jab. Thought he would be stronger in the clinch. Thought he'd be able to dictate the distance. And I thought his footwork was just as good as Fury's. Also, Fury, he likes to move and circle, but when Wladimir really wants to bounce on his feet and, move around, he can when he wants to, but a lot of Wladimir Klitschko fans that think he's going to come back and win this rematch, which he could, it's possible. I'm slightly favoring Tyson Fury because I think his style just throws a monkey wrench, towards Wladimir Klitschko. I just think it bothers him, man. Just the awkwardness, him switching from righty to lefty. When they were holding on the inside, looked like Tyson Fury was getting the best of it. Tyson Fury is nowhere near intimidated or scared or anything. If anything, it looks like he's the champion in there. That's that's just the feel he gives off when both men are in the ring, in my opinion, when I watch the fight. All right, it's not like Fury went in there and just beat his ass or was beating him from pillar to post. No. To me, just outpointed him. And Wladimir, just his style and him being not very aggressive, he just elected to fight Fury's fight, and he was following him around, so on and so forth. But a lot of Klitschko fans are telling me that, well, Wladimir in his rematches, he's a totally different fighter. And I was just thinking to myself, like, well, let me, go back and really see what they're talking about. And the Layman Brewster fight, okay, 2004, he lost. He ran out of gas. Brewster, he outwilled him in that fight. Okay, Wladimir rematched him 3 years later. Now, this is a totally different Layman Brewster going into this fight. I know he was battling injuries. Obviously, Wladimir got better as his career progressed. I'm not saying it's his fault that these guys weren't the same or weren't better. It's not his fault. But the circumstances are just different. This rematch was 3 years later. Brewster wasn't the same fighter, in my opinion, physically. Wladimir was able to take care of him. So, yes, he looked better in that rematch. The Chris Bird fight, he dominated Bird in 2000. I didn't really see... really wasn't even the need for a rematch. Now I forget what was going on around then, why Bird got that fight with him. I can't remember exactly, but just looking at the fights and the styles and everything, he dominated him 2 times in a row. I mean, they could have fought 5 times. So it wasn't like, Klitschko was getting beat up in the first fight and he came back and then dominated Chris Bird. No, he has the size advantage. He has the size advantage. He has just as much skills as Bird. Bird probably a little bit better, reflexes and his quickness. You know how Chris Bird fights, like to use his defense and counterpunch. Doesn't really rely on power, but he already beat up Chris Bird. So that rematch is like, yeah, he looked better, but he looked better against somebody who he already dominated. Samuel Peter. The 2005 fight was a real good fight. Wladimir went down a few times. He got up. He showed his will, and he won that fight. He eked it out. He fought Peter 5 years later. I mean, Wladimir was a lot better fighter. Peter wasn't, in my opinion. And he was able to knock him out that time around. So, yes, was a performance better? Yes, but look at the circumstances. Against somebody who he has the size, the reach, and to me, he's a better fighter than Samuel Peter. Peter just had an equalizer with his power around 2004, 2005, in my opinion. So him beating Peter 5 years later is like, okay, but, you're a better fighter than Peter and you beat him the first time, So, yes, he did look a lot better in the rematch. I'll give you that. But the circumstances are just different. It's 5 years later. Tony Thompson, he dominated him in 2008. It was a good fight. Thompson pushed him 8 rounds. We didn't think Thompson would be able to do that. Show his toughness. He showed that he wanted to, out jab and out box. And he put up a good performance in that fight. Now, 4 years later, Wladimir gets him out of there in 6 rounds. Better performance by Wladimir. So I get what you guys are saying about he looks better in his rematches, but the circumstances are different. Some of these guys he beat in the first fight. Tyson Fury is a lot bigger than all of those guys that he fought. He has a longer reach than all of those guys who Wladimir fought. And Instead of those fights, you know, the Thompson rematch was 4 years later. The Samuel Peter rematch was 5 years later. The Chris Bird rematch was 6 years later. The Layman Brewster rematch was 3 years later. This fight is going to be less than a year later with Tyson Fury. The circumstances are different. He has a 4-inch reach advantage on Klitschko. He is 12 years his junior. The circumstances are different. It's a different beast this time around, in my opinion. You know, it's not like he's getting in there with somebody that has a shorter reach. He's the bigger man. He has the better jab. And it's 3-4 years later, and the guy is less of a fighter than he was when Wladimir fought him the first time. Vladimir got better as his title reign went on, in my opinion. This was through his title reign. So he was on, you know, he was on point. This is different. The rematch is less than a year later. A bigger man, 12 years younger than you, not scared, not intimidated. And Vladimir won what? Maybe 3 rounds that first fight? If you say he won 2, 3, maybe 4 rounds, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe 3. I had him winning 2 or 3 rounds. To me, the circumstances are different, man. That's just my opinion. You know, I mean, I guess we'll see how it plays out. Now, I did favor Vladimir going into the first fight. Now, don't get me wrong. I just thought he was a better all-around fighter. I knew Fury was awkward and everything, but, you know, I have Vladimir as a big favorite going into that fight, that first fight, maybe 5-1, 6-1 type of favorite. This fight, I'm a favor Fury 2-1. I think he's a 2-1 favorite going into this fight, just based on their first fight, not what they've done in their whole career. I know Vladimir has the better resume, the better, you know, he has a long title reign. It's not resume versus resume. It's the fighter versus the fighter on fight night. They can't bring their resumes in the ring with them, you know. Vladimir can't bring, you know, he just can't bring it in the ring with them. And I know some of you guys want to go back on, well, he's a long reigning champion and Fury hasn't accomplished. Well, I know he hasn't accomplished what he accomplished, but these rematches, I get what you guys are saying, but I mean, I would like to see how he would have done against Corey Sanders in the rematch, or Purity in the rematch. But the rematches he had, yes, I get what you guys are saying. He looked a lot better, but the circumstances are different. He's not fighting guys who are, you know, coming in battling injuries, or small heavyweights, or guys who are limited that only have power. This is a whole different dynamic. Somebody that's bigger, somebody that looks is equally strong. Now, their physiques, you may favor Vladimir's physique over Tyson Fury's physique, but I think they're just as strong as each other, or Fury may be a little bit stronger, and he's 12 years younger. You know, he has an 85-inch reach. He has 4 inches on him in the reach, and he's taller, and he weighs just as much or even more. The dynamic is different, and he's confident as hell, whether you like his style or not. The dynamics are different on this one. I'm sorry, guys. I think the dynamic are different. You guys leave me your opinion in the comments section. I love this discussion. I think it's a great discussion. But to me, just in my opinion, man, watching this and breaking it down and watching the fights, yes, he does better in rematches, but the circumstances are totally different this time around. Just my opinion. YTBC. I'm out.